This hour, South Africa's golden girl, Semenya, has the full backing of the South African government.
The 800-meter world champion will be at the Court of Arbitration for Sports in Switzerland next week as hyperandrogenism in athletes will be put to the test. Hyperandrogenism is a term used to describe the natural but excessive production of testosterone in the female body.
Addressing the media in Pretoria this morning, Sports Minister Tokozile Xasa has described the issue as a gross violation of human rights.
Instead of bringing compelling evidence as per the directive of the court, the IAAF instead introduced new hyperandrogenism regulations in 2018, which amplified the previous 2011 regulations. In terms of these new regulations, I quote, a female with hyperandrogenism who is recognized as a female in law shall be eligible to compete in women competitions in athletics provided that she has androgen level below that of a male. Specifically, their natural levels of testosterone must be below 5 nanomoles per liter, unquote. Moreover, the regulations are only applicable to 400 meters to mile, including 400-meter hurdle races, 800-meter and 1,500-meter. The categories wherein coincidentally Semenya participates and generally dominates. The logic as to why regulations were restricted to these categories is still unclear, thus compelling us as a country to suspect they are targeted to our very own daughter of the soil, who is the reigning world champion in the 400 meters and 800-meter track.
Now, for more on this story, we're now joined in studio by the Department of Sports and Recreation's spokesperson, Vuyo Mhaga. Thanks so much for joining us, Vuyo.
Thank you very much, Pretoria.
All right, so lots of support being given to Xasa. Tell us what's at stake next week.
Well, what's at stake really, it's about Xasa. If you know the decision can be otherwise, that she might not necessarily compete, but that won't affect her as a person only. It will affect many athletes who are actually natural the way she is. So I think it's a case that the South African government felt is that it is worth of a fight. If we don't do that to close ranks and to defend one of our own, we'll never actually do anything, and actually will let the not to be seen by future generations.
So this stems from the IAAF making a decision sometime last year, and this is what's being challenged now. They were concerned about the testosterone levels. Just tell us a little bit more about what that is and why they're concerned. Well,
they are concerned. They say there's obviously almost an abnormal testosterone levels for a female. They are almost of that of a male, and they want to make a compelling case to say, therefore, she's got an advantage over other athletes. And I think the case that we are really putting that is something that, first and foremost, she did not induce it to her body. It's natural, it's like that. But there are also other reasons why an athlete of her nature will compete and actually perform at her best level compared to other athletes, depending where she trains, the climate where she is. And those are the issues that the lawyers will be taking to Switzerland to argue the case.
All right, and also, if I remember correctly, there was some flaws in the way that they came to those conclusions, and that her race particularly was targeted, even though there wasn't enough data to prove their case.
Well, that is true. I mean, what is quite funny, when Xasa actually started to say she thinks of actually running 1,500, they actually included 1,500 as part, at a later stage, after her declaration, as part of the issues that must be actually excluded. Now, that's why the South African government feels that there is a targeted issue on her as a person in particular. Therefore, as a citizen of South Africa, the South African government has got a duty to defend each and every citizen in the country and the world.
Has there been any science done in terms of elevated levels of testosterone being present, enhancing performance?
Well, that's what is going to be tested. First and foremost, you must then say there was a consent to say I, as Vuyo, for example, I'm willing to be tested if I have this thing. So those are the issues that will be vented in Switzerland, and obviously our team is quite ready to counter any argument of that particular nature.
What's been the feelings of South African athletes towards Xasa's predicament? Well,
today we had about 4 federations. The Banyana coach, Desiree, was there to support. The cricket federation was there to support. Netball was there. So you've got the whole sporting body of South Africa to say we are behind you. And actually it's not her fight alone. It's basically the fight of everyone in South Africa, in particular those who are in the sporting community.
Do you have any idea how soon we might get a judgment on this case?
Well, the case will run possibly about 3 weeks. We are not quite sure, but one of the things as part of the campaign, we'll keep updating South Africans to say these are the, what has actually been said in court. This is where we are with the case and all that. We have sent quite a huge team to that side to make sure that it defend the case.
All right. Tell us about the support that she's getting in terms of, I guess, experts and legal support.
Well, when we initially challenged the case, the minister actually formed a high-level panel of experts, the lawyers, the medical team, to make sure that they look, actually not only in South Africa, actually across the world, from Canada, from US. Obviously, the Professor Cornelius, who was part of the IWF and actually resigned, is part of that particular team. So it's quite a very strong team. And you'll remember there are 2 teams. There's one for Xasa and there's one for Athletics South Africa. So the 2 of them are jointly working together to make sure that we deliver positive results.
And I remember Professor Cornelius was very adamant that the IAAF had erred. What has been his main argument that he's put forward?
Well, mainly, I mean, his professor has got an appreciation of the history of this country, and mainly about the human rights violation that has been happening there. Is a similar sentiment that have been actually espoused by the UN, human rights, to say there is something untoward on this particular issue. On those bases alone, in the midst of it, to say he can't feel part and parcel of a body that seems to want to violate the human rights of an athlete.
Do you have any idea who's pushing the IAAF? Are there interested parties that you suspect might be nudging the IAAF in a particular direction?
Well, not really, except to suspect that it seems where the African athletes, who are actually quite dominant in track, there seems to be discomfort to that particular body. If you look at who actually has been dominating that space, and the question must be asked, is this the only association in terms of the athlete that is affected by this testosterone problem, or other areas are actually affected? So to understand that it's not a targeted issue, but every athlete that might actually produce that, it will actually be tested.
And it is interesting that when men have elevated levels of testosterone, this isn't even a question that's asked.
Well, correct. I mean, there are many athletes who've got, by their nature of their body form, will obviously have an advantage over the other ones. I mean, you take Michael Phillips, the swimmer. I mean, the manner that he was born makes him to be actually an extraordinary swimmer. So what must happen to him? His hands must be cut so that he can actually be like other athletes. So it's one of the very crazy arguments that is being pushed forward, but we're quite confident our team will do well.
All right, so Vuyo Mhaga, thanks very much indeed for coming through. We wish Xasa the very best and the support that you're giving her. Thanks so much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much for your property.